Okay, introduction. A background of study. Vocabulary is one of the language components studied by students of all the levels in the school. It's impossible to be successful English learners without mastering the English vocabulary. According to Tambury, vocabulary is one of the first things the students should to learn in order to communicate well in the foreign language. Students should acquire and educate the number of the words should know to how to use them accurately. Vocabulary is needed to improve the four language skill, namely listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Without grammar, very little can be confined. Without vocabulary, nothing can be confined. When we just learn about the grammar without learning vocabulary, we cannot to express anything. It is to show that English has specially place in the teaching of the foreign language at the school. In learning teaching English still exists at the school because the English language is completely different from the Indonesian language. It's the system of the structure, pronunciation, vocabulary for the teachers. Creating English teaching effectively and efficiently is not easy job. Therefore, that the English teacher must be able to organize teaching learning activities. They have to present the material by using a suitable teaching technique and the method. A good teacher technique makes students understand and master the lesson like the other lesson, which they need suitable technique. The teaching language also need a suitable techniques and the method. In the reality, the learning English, especially to memorize vocabulary, is too boring for some students. Based on the researchers' observation and 24 January 2020 at the second grade student of MTS Istiqomah Telaga Waru, the researchers found some problem faced by the student. The problem were like the student difficult to remember and memorize new vocabulary and difficult to know the meaning of the word. This problem happened because the student have difficulty in differentiating the form of the grammatical such as the speech like noun, verb, adjective. Furthermore, the student tend to be bored and low participant in English class. To solve the problem, in the researchers try to apply game to make student comfort in learning, enjoy with the material, and make student have motivation during teaching and learning process. Game is an important part of the people life, although many adults have forgotten how to play. For the children, is one of the main activities throughout their days. One of game that can improve the student vocabulary mastery is the field game. Field game is game which players try to describe object, what they touch, and feel without saying. It means that the teacher give the one object to student and the student touch object and try to describe one object. Ideally, if the student can play many games in English, their vocabulary mastery will be up and will be grow up their skill to improve vocabulary mastery skill. It can be seen from the less vocabulary that they have memorized and they are not able to mention the meaning of the simple vocabulary. The researchers want to conduct the research with the title The Effect of Field Game Towards Student Vocabulary Mastery at the second grade of MTS Al-Istiqomah Telaga Waru in academic year 2020 and 2021. C of the purpose of the study. Based on the statement of the problem above, the purpose of study is to find out the effect of field game towards student vocabulary mastery in the second grade student of MTS Al-Istiqomah Telaga Waru in academic 2020 and 2021 years. And D, significance of the study. Number one is theoretical significance to the next researchers. The significance of this study hopefully can provide information as the references about the new strategy in teaching vocabulary to next the researchers. And B, to the readers, the result of this study will give the important information about the new strategy in teaching vocabulary. Number 2, participle significant. A, for the teacher to help the teacher in MTS Al-Istiqomah Telaga Waru in teaching English, especially vocabulary, and encourage an English teacher to use field game in teaching and teaching learning process, especially to teaching vocabulary. And for student, to help student to help stu- to to help student in solving their problem, increasing vocabulary, increasing the skill of vocabulary. It also helps the student improve their vocabulary ability and improve the student vocabulary mastery. The next is definition of key term. Field game. Field game is game which the player to try describe object what they touch and feel without saying the object. It means that I have to explain you before the teacher should to give one object to student and the student touch this object and try to describe what they touch and what they feel without saying the object. The field game makes students get the many new words and enjoy the word game while the student learn vocabulary. Vocabulary is list of the word used to express our idea as a communication tool. Next is the chapter 2 review of related literature. A. The nature of vocabulary. Definition of vocabulary. Lindsay, state of the vocabulary is one of the collection word that individual know. When the someone know of the vocabulary, usually someone will be easy to doing communicate to the other people. Learning vocabulary is very important because vocabulary is one of the requirements for the people to use the language to communicate. Besides that, vocabulary is true that without vocabulary people cannot say anything. With the learning and mastery vocabulary, people will be able to learn foreign language and master the language skill too. Vocabulary is the collection owned by the language and give the meaning when we use the language. For this reason, it is important for students to learn and master vocabulary. Kind of vocabulary. In addition, according to nation states that we can distinguish four kind of vocabulary in this proposal. The first one is high frequency word academic, technical, and low-frequency words. Indicator number 3, indicator of vocabulary according to Tomburi 2002. There are 4 indicators of the vocabulary as the follow. For the first one, pronunciation. Research shows that the words are difficult to pronounce are the more difficult to learn. The second one is spelling. Some spelling mismatches are likely to be the cause of the error. Either the pronunciation of spelling and can contribute to a word difficult. And number C is the meaning. When two words overlap in the meaning, the learners are likely to confuse them. Make do is the case of the point you make the breakfast and make the appointment, but you don't but you do the housework. And questionnaire words with a multiple meaning, such as the since and still, can also be troublesome for the learners. The next is the grammar. Also, the problematic is the grammar associated with the word, especially in this different depths of it is the first language to equivalent Spanish learner of English. For example, 10 for example For example, tend to assume that explain the same both of the Spanish explicit and the English style and say they explained me the lesson. Remember whether a verb like enjoy, love, or hope is followed by infinitive to swim or end or ing from swimming can add to. It is it is difficult the grammar of phrasal verb particularly troublesome. Number B is field game. The definition of field game according to Reich, field game is all of activity to help students to respond or describe what they touch and what they feel. Developing in the student sense of the touch and feel helps with their understanding of the world around us. We want to our children to explore their senses and the realize what they touching and what they feeling can pass on information as well as sight and hearing. Procedure of field game. In applying field game in the class, there are some procedures. For the first one is make sure that the learners know the majority of the object which you have collected. Put 4 or 5 the object under the cloth or table without the class saying which one of you have to chosen. She asks the learners to feel one of the objects through the clothes and try to describe what they touch and tell you what they think about it. Let the learners remove the object to see if they were correct. Number 3 is repeat without other learners. In the next chapter 3, research and method. A. Research design. According to Contrary, experimental research is the characteristic by much greater control over their research environment, and this is case some variables are manipulated to observe their effect of the variable. In this research, the researchers was applied experimental with non-covalent control group design. Quasi experimental is developing of true experimental design. According to Sugiono, non-covalent equivalent control group is designed that include in two groups, while that experimental group and the control group. The test was given to both of the classes. For experimental groups was treated by using field game, and control group was treated by using memory games. You can see in the proposal, in the paper of proposal, there are table that you can see. For the 01 is the pre-test for experimental groups, and the next is 0 0 02 is the post-test for the experimental group, and 03 is the pre-test for the control group, and 04 is the post-test for the control group, and the X is the treatment by using field game or experimental group, and the X is treatment by using memory game. Number B is population and sample. According to the Miller, population is defined as collection all of the possible objects, people, or score of the particular types. Population of the researchers was entire in the second grade student of MTS Istiqomah Telaga Waru in academic year 2020 and 2021 consists of two classes were like HA and HB, wherein HBA consists of 50 students and HB consists of 50 students, with the total student is the 30 student. Sample. According to Sugiono, states that the sample is part of the number and characteristic process by that population. The sample technique that used in this research influenced the sampling technique to determine the control group was experimental group and the sample of the researchers. The sample of the researchers are two classes of the second grade of student at MTS Istiqomah Telaga Waru in academic 2020 and 2021, and HA has been experimental class that consists of 50 students, and HB as the control class that consists of 70 students with totally number 13 students. The next is the technique of data collection. According to Sugiono, techniques of data collection is one of category concerning the ways in which data is collected, was done in various of settings in various searchers in a various way. Its main techniques data is analyzed is the way to collect and any information of the data from the student to support the researchers to get much information in the collecting the data. The researchers was take the data from the pre-test and post-test of the student scores. The step collecting the data the follows. For the first one is pre-test. Pre-test is the first step in collecting the data. At the first meeting, the researchers was come to class and gave the student set of tests. Pre-test was given before the treatment. The next is the post-test. Test is the last step in collecting the data. This test was conducted after the researchers gave the student treatment. This test is given to student to find out the result of the student vocabulary mastery after give the treatment of this field. The last is technique of the data analysis. The technique of data analysis is the way that used by the researchers in analyzing data that has been collected in this research. The researchers use For the first one is descriptive analyze, and the second one is mean, and the next is mode, the next is median, in the next is the standard derivation. Maybe that's all my explanation about my thesis proposal. Forgive me when I have the many mistake in this proposal. I do apologize if I have many wrong words to read this proposal. So many things. I'm so sorry. The last I say, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.